Education in Howard County, kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm Courtney Watson, and I want to introduce Delegate Turner for some opening remarks. Or Delegate Miller.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Normally at Town Hall, the elected officials come and talk to you all night, and you listen. Frank and I thought we'd do it different. We'd invite you, and we would listen. And the reason we want to do this is we've heard countless stories of problems with the Howard County Board of Education, the Superintendent's Office, and other issues with our schools. Whether it's mold in certain schools or whether it's other concerns, we're glad you're here tonight. Relax. You have microphones here. We want to hear from you. So I'll turn it over to Delegate Turner. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Miller. I am very happy to see so many of you come out tonight and participate in this town hall meeting. And I do want to thank Howard Community College and the president for allowing us to use this room tonight. And also, there will be many other elected officials, and there's some out there already that have come to hear. But most of all, I will also want to thank the moderators, Courtney Watson and Christine Smalls, for taking on this great responsibility of moderating this evening. Howard County elected officials have taken notice of the many issues that you have brought to our attention, and we are concerned about the health, welfare, and safety and education of our students. So without any further discussion, I want to turn it back over to Christine and to Courtney so they can really, so we can really hear from you. Thank you. There'll be other members of the delegation that will be coming tonight that will be sitting up here with us.
Good evening. I'm Christina Delmont Small, and I'm the former PTA Council President for the PTA Council in Howard County. And I was asked to help moderate tonight as an individual, not representing any group. The goal this evening is for parents and citizens to share their thoughts about education in Howard County.
And again, I'm Courtney Watson. I'm a former school board member. I was elected to the school board in 2002 and served for 4 years until 2006. I am here moderating the meeting as an individual, not representing any groups. Everyone in this room wants the same thing. I truly believe that, and that is what's best for our children. Would you all agree? Yes. Yes. We are all here for the same common purpose and common goal, and we want to begin the meeting on that common ground. Delegates Miller and Turner want to hear your comments and concerns about the school system. They also want to hear your suggestions. They want to hear your suggestions about education in Howard County. If you think there should be changes, please mention that. But also mention what you would like to see done differently. And try to keep the conversation about the issues and not necessarily specific individual educators. The delegation, Delegate Miller and Delegate Turner, have set up or are asking you, if you're tweeting, to use a hashtag. And the hashtag's on the wall over there. You probably can't see it, so I'll read it to you. It's HC, capital ED, Town Hall. HCED, Town Hall. If you are tweeting, that will allow people in Greater Howard County to follow along with the conversation.
We want everyone to have a chance to speak. So that we can accomplish this, we ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. After everyone who wants to speak has had an opportunity to do so, and if we still have time, we will ask anyone else if they would like to have another opportunity to speak. And another thing that we're going to be doing is, so that you know exactly how long 3 minutes happens to be, it goes much quicker than you will remember, is we have 2 signs. We'll have a white sign that'll say that you've been speaking for 1 minute, and then for 2 minutes, so you have 1 minute left. See, this is why we check. And you have a yellow sheet that says stop. We got it? Okay, perfect. Okay. Since this is an opportunity to hear from parents and citizens, we are not going to ask any public officials to respond to your statements or questions tonight, but we hope that they will respond in the very near future. As you can see, we're being videotaped. This will enable anyone who's not been able to join us this evening to have an opportunity to hear what has been said tonight. Also, Mr. Dan Furman, staff member for the delegation, will be taking notes, and Delegates Miller and Turner will be sharing what is said this evening with the Board of Education, Superintendent, and all members of the Howard County delegation.
So as moderators, it's our task to make sure that everyone who wants to speak is able to do that tonight. We're going to be reading names from the sign-up sheets, and you'll see 2 microphones. You should approach the closest microphone, and we may read 3 or 4 names at once so that you can be prepared to testify or to speak, give your comments. And if you go over 3 minutes, we're going to gently remind you to please wrap up so that everyone can have a chance. Is that everybody in agreement with that? 3 minutes, and then at the end, if there's more time, you can come up again. And before we begin, we were going to quickly introduce elected officials in the audience tonight. The ones that I know of that are here are County Council Chairman Calvin Ball in the back. We have Matt Griszik, who is representing Delegate Eric Ebersol. We have Board of Education members Sandy French and Ellen Giles. Any other electeds in the audience? I see Christine O'Connor, Board Chair, Howard County Board of Education Chair Christine O'Connor, and I see Cindy Valancourt and Bess Outwater in the back as well. Are we ready to begin? Okay, we need parents with children, small children, anyone with small children that needs to get home. Please make your way to the microphone, and the first person that we have signed up with a small child is Haley Moon. And anyone else with children, be prepared to come on up after Ms. Moon testifies. That's fine. If you could first start with your name.
My name is Haley Moon.
You can begin.
One time when I was at school, Longfellow Elementary School, I'm in 2nd grade. Yes. Yes. I'm in troop 330. I'm being bullied at school.
Tell them how.
There's a little girl, and she's in 2nd grade too. She's been bullying me, and how she's been bullying me is because she's been choking me, and she's been telling me to do bad stuff. She's been telling me to rip things off the wall and school property, and or I will hurt you, is what she's been saying at school.
Did she try to drown in the swimming pool?
And she tried to drown me in the swimming pool.
Are you afraid to go to school?
And I'm afraid to
Why
go
are
to
you
school.
afraid to go to school?
Yes.
Tell them why you're afraid to go to school.
Because she won't stop messing with me, and she won't stop. Even though a plan doesn't work, she won't stop.
And when you tell an adult, what happens?
When I tell an adult, she lies about it and says that I'm doing it.
So, do you feel like you should probably be able to go to another school?
Yes,
Why?
because I want to stop being bullied.
Does she live in the same neighborhood as us?
Yes.
So tell them about what happens in the neighborhood too.
In the neighborhood, one time when I was in the back of the office, me and Morgan were fighting, and after we were fighting, then Morgan punched me in my stomach, and I fell down, and she started kicking me.
Have Morgan's parents ever threatened you?
Yes.
How so?
They're saying bad things about my dad, saying his eye looks weird.
Okay. So do you like Longfellow?
A little bit.
What school would you like to go to?
Swansfield.
Okay. So, okay, I'm gonna let you guys know. I'm gonna go over this is a press initiative.
Excuse me, sir. Could you just say your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Dedrick Moon, and I'm Haley Moon's father. The reason that I'm here tonight instead of her mother is because I have custody of my daughter. So I'm a single parent. I've had custody of her for the past 6 years. My daughter's being bullied and harassed in both the community and the neighborhood, and as she stated, is suffering from broken trust. With that broken trust, this other child has done a litany of things to my daughter starting last school year, which include choking her on several occasions, trying to drown her in a swimming pool, spreading rumors about her, and basically saying things that an 8-year-old child would never do. She's called her all type of derogatory names to include words that start with B, other words that start with S, also spreading rumors that my daughter practices fellatio. Now, this other child is 8 years old, too. So I've had conversations with the school and speaking with the principals and made them aware of all the issues that persisted before the school year. And in speaking with them, I tried to say, hey, you know, these are the things that occurred last school year. This child is not only bullying my child, but she's bullying other children as well. Not talking about my child, but my child is her major proponent. Is her principal victim. So to that accord, and speaking with the principals at Longfellow, I said, you know, with everything being said and done, I think it's best that these children be separated from each other and they be placed in separate classrooms. And I also let them know that I feel like eventually over time this whole issue is going to explode, especially when you got a situation of when a child is trying to take another child's life. This child that we're speaking about has also exhibited these same behaviors on other children. This child that I'm speaking of, that is the bully, is also in the alternative education program. When I've sat down and I've had these conversations with the principals and the educators at Longfellow Elementary, they have basically taken a stance of doing very little. They did not ever tell me what type of paperwork that I should fill out. They never made me aware of the anti-bullying form. They never made me aware of my rights as a parent to be able to contact juvenile services or anything like that. My daughter has suffered for an extended period of time, as I stated, last school year. My daughter's in counseling and everything as a result of the litany of abuse that she's received at the hands of this other child. Having said that, she's afraid to be able to go to the adults and everything in the school because what ends up happening is when she does go to the adults, the child retaliates. It has interrupted our home life on a day-to-day basis, and it has also interrupted my child's education. Again, as I said, this child is an honor roll student, and she's also a Girl Scout. This isn't fair. This child shouldn't be suffering like this, and no child should be suffering like this. Things have gotten out of hand to where legal teams have been...
And Mr. Moon, I'm going to remind you gently.
Okay.
It's time to wrap up.
Okay. Things have gotten out of hand to where legal teams have gotten involved. I've went to the Board of Education, and I've tried to iterate to them the importance of allowing my daughter to transfer. The Board of Education has been silent. I've went to the ombudsman. I've actually escalated everything to the state. I've spoken with Dr. Michael Ford with the State Department of Education regarding all the issues that are going on, and it shouldn't be that bad.
10 seconds, can you sum up for me, please?
So, in summary, the bullying at Longfellow is horrible, and unfortunately, the educators and those that are empowered to do something are taking a stance to do nothing. Their focus is on test scores, but not student safety.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moon. And Haley, you did a really nice job. Thank you for being here. Okay? And now, is there anyone else in the audience that has children that would like to testify to get the children home? We only had one person with a child actually sign up for that privilege. Anyone else with children that wants to testify? Okay, if I see no one, last chance. I see a little girl raising her hand. Oh, sorry. The little boy does not want to testify? Oh, he's coming to the mic. She's coming to the mic. Is she coming to the mic? Okay. Jim Millix, followed by Christine McComas, followed by Binky McKenna. That's the order of the next three people testifying. Let's try to stick to the 3 minutes. You see everyone in the room, and we're going to be a little less gentle, just to make sure everyone gets their chance, okay? Jim Millix.
Actually, it's Jim Miller.
Very sorry.
That's all right. This is also a public health and safety issue. Everybody's heard about the mold issue, but I have another issue, and it's been going on for years that I want to make everybody aware of. A number of years ago, one of my kids attended an event that had an amplification system, loudspeaker system, and she was asked to sit down by it, on the floor with the rest of the students. And they proceeded to have loud music. And when they came out, they said to me, "My ears hurt." So that got me curious, and I went in and talked to the people behind the soundboard, and I started asking questions. Do you have any training in sound safety? Do you know what levels are dangerous? And the answer was no and no. So I started investigating. I started at the vice principal level, talked to the principal. I've presented twice before the school board. I had meetings at Howard County to talk about this issue, and found out that there is no sound safety policy. They don't train teachers in what that means. In trying to be nice about this issue, I said, look, I'll rent a decimeter and take readings, which I did. I've spent thousands of dollars on this. I've given information to the risk management group. And basically, if you have a DJ, be concerned, because I've interviewed dozens of DJs. None of them in 3 years has said that they understand or have a sound safety policy. They don't have the equipment to monitor levels. Be aware of this. So at events, I've measured these events that I'm allowed to go to. By the way, the principal at my local high school would not allow me to attend a dance. They passed it up to the Howard County board, who wouldn't let me also attend a dance to take decimeter readings, because number one, I am not a student, and number two, I don't have a ticket. It sounded very self-serving to me that a parent who is concerned about safety is not allowed into an event to even measure sound levels and present them. All I wanted to do was to raise the issue. Okay, I'm supposed to stop. Okay.
Mr. Miller, thank you very much for your testimony.
All right, thank you.
Christine McComas. Followed by Binky McKenna and Colleen Morris.
Thank you for holding this meeting and for hearing our concerns. My name is Christine Pfister McComas, and I'm a lifelong member of the Howard County community, and I've always been proud to say that I'm a K-12 product of the Howard County public school system. My husband and I have 4 daughters who have attended Glenelg High School, and unfortunately, one of them, Grace McComas, didn't make it out alive. 3 minutes is not nearly enough to adequately describe the nightmare which we have been living since June of 2011. Grace McComas, who was a bright, kind, and well-adjusted 14-year-old, she was a bright, kind, and well-adjusted 14-year-old until that day. An uninvestigated drug-assisted sexual assault by an older Glenelg High School student was followed by months of sexual harassment, bullying, and cyberbullying, which were reported to the school system from the very beginning. Mistakes were made, and little was done about the matter. Death-wishing, dehumanizing, and sexually tinged tweets were sent to hundreds, and the school wouldn't even talk with him or call his parents. Tweets like, "Snitches, I will kill you," or "Next time my name rolls off your tongue, choke on it and die," all caps. There were others which told her to kill herself and threatened the safety of our family. Once, on the school bus, when she was choking on a sip of water, a friend of her main bully yelled from the back of the bus, and excuse me, "What's the matter, Grace? Have you got someone's dick stuck in your throat?" You know whose, to the chatter and laughter of the other boys on the bus, asking who, what. This clear sexual harassment, horrifying to a victim of sexual assault, which the school knew about, is in clear violation of Title IX of the Federal Civil Rights Act. It was reported, but again, nothing was done to remedy it. I wasn't ever informed there was a school psychologist or a Title IX coordinator, which apparently they are supposed to do. And I'm still hearing about this from other parents who don't want to come forward. Just earlier this year, I know of one whose daughter was getting some serious messages, and they took it to the school, and the school gave them a blank piece of paper to write on, not the bullying form. They never got a copy of it. And as far as I understand, they had the young man come in and they just wiped his phone. It's not enough, and it's wrong. Grace was not a sullen or uncommunicative teen. We knew exactly what was happening to her, but watched her slow motion demise as we were unable to be helped or validated in appropriate ways. Since her death, Principal Schindler, who still holds his position there, and HCPSS admin have acted as if she never existed, refusing to speak her name or remember her life in any way. From the denial of a memorial page in the yearbook to the initial rejection of any remembrance, even a little blue ribbon on lapels at graduation, it's like being beaten over and over and over again. From April 2012 to the present, there has been a basic lack of decency, transparency, and integrity. And the time has come to publicly call them on it. Twice we have requested the files pertinent to the last year of Grace's life and have been ignored. They have been truly arrogant, dismissive, and dishonest and seem to view themselves above the law. Grace was not an at-risk child, and I need to ask, how can we know what changes have been made to make sure a tragedy like this does not repeat? Finally, ask a child within the Howard County Public School System if they have heard of Grace's Law, the Child Protective Law against cyberbullying in Maryland. They probably haven't, because HCPSS denies not only Grace's existence, but also school climate issues, including bullying and sexual harassment. They've taken no part in teaching or promoting that law. The time has come for new leadership before Howard County Public School System is damaged for good.
Thank you, Mrs. McComas.
Thank you.
Ms. McKenna?
Yes. My name is Binky McKenna. I'm a media specialist at Reservoir High School. I've worked in the Howard County Public School System for 17 years, and prior to that, 20 years as a public librarian. My parents moved here in '76 and chose Howard County because of the schools. I was actually in college at the time, but I had 3 younger sisters, and they chose Howard County because the schools were, even at that time, known as the best schools in the state. I'm disturbed at what I'm hearing from parents and what I hear from my colleagues and what I have experienced in the last couple of years. In particular, it all comes down to priorities. And some of the decisions that have been made around the budget have, instead of giving our kids more resources, have actually taken away resources. We've taken out paraeducators in the kindergarten. Last year, we lost our media secretary in high school. There are 2 high school certified media specialists. I have a master's degree plus 30 graduate credits in my field. And the secretary provides us the opportunity to teach in classrooms and teach in the media center. But that was taken away from us last year. And it really was the way that it was taken that was the most disturbing. In October, I guess the idea was floated that we could dispose of the media secretaries and the kindergarten paraeducators. And I was told by my principal that we wouldn't have that person next year, and so therefore we needed to, start thinking about that. And my first response was, well, that's not how it works. It works that, okay, these are ideas that are suggested, but then there's the whole budget process. And people get to speak on that, and people get to, lots of people get to talk and bring their opinion, and then hopefully that opinion and that voice is heard. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case last year. Although we testified, numerous of us testified. I would say 3/4 of the people that testified that night about the budget were about the loss of these two positions in the kindergarten, all the kindergarten paras, and the high school, the secondary, middle school and high school media secretaries. It was a done deal from October. And honestly, there was tremendous pressure on us to not speak out against it. This was the way that the administration was going. We were over and over told to sort of sit down and shut up kind of thing. Just get over it. It's gone. And to me, that's really disturbing because there are lots of choices to be made. And it would be wonderful if there was at least some input from citizens, from educators. I mean, we're the ones on the line every day. But there wasn't. It was just done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. McKenna. As Colleen Morris comes up, I just want to mention that we have other elected officials that have joined us. Delegate Terry Hill, Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, Delegate, do you know your delegates? Delegate Trent Kittleman, Delegate Clarence Lamb, and also County Council Member Jen Terraza has entered the room. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for hosting this. My name is Colleen Morris. I am a product of Howard County Public School Systems, and my son attends the school system now. I'm concerned about transparency as well as budget priorities and class size. So last year when Dr. Foose produced her budget, the superintendent's budget, she said that her zero-based budget, she said that classes were not going to lose any support, that the classes were the most important. So that was Thursday night. Friday morning, central office had all the principals in a meeting with a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint had what Binky had referred to earlier as the cuts in the paraeducators that we were going to see in both media and kindergarten support, with the ratios of how that was going to happen, as well as the class size increase in both middle school and high school. So I tried to get a copy of it, of the PowerPoint, and someone sent me some of the slides on my phone. So I brought them the next morning, which was Saturday morning, because the board happened to be having a meeting, and they were having some coffee thing at the beginning. And I brought them to board chair at that time was Dr. Siddiqui. And I asked her, why, as a citizen on Thursday night, when I was sitting at this budget presentation, did I not hear about this? And I told her what it was, and her only response to me was, where did you get this? So that was not my concern. My concern is the class size of my son. My concern is support that he or other children was not going to have. So she said she'd get back to me. It's been almost a year. She has not gotten back to me. Although we all know what happened. So anyway, when I asked other board members if she shared with them what I had given her, the answer was no. So I'm very concerned about what's not happening with our classes, and I'm very concerned about transparency. Although I do appreciate that no one's interrupted me right now, because usually when I speak at the board or when Ms. Giles has been board chair, she cuts me off all the time and uses my 3 minutes. So I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I just really hope that we can do something about this. Oh, one more thing. I did hear that HCPSS was not advertising this tonight, and I find that amazing, since 5 board members and at least 4 high-ranking central office officials are here in this audience.
Okay. All right, everyone. Clapping is okay, but the longer you clap, the later we'll be here, the longer you'll wait. So let's just say that we've got Danine Drummond, Aaron Welsh, and Barb I'm going to not say it right, Kruperas. It was close. Also, You have to be 8 inches away from the microphone in order for them to be able to hear you clearly on the live stream, so please try to stay 8 inches back, okay? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Deneen Drummond, and my family has lived in Columbia for 30 years. I'd like to give you some examples of why we need some new leadership in the Howard County school system. My son Zachary is a wonderful young man in 7th grade who the school system now classifies as having severe autism. You would think that this would mean he would be in a specialized classroom receiving intensive support from a special educator. Instead, what this means in this county is he is put into regular education for most of his day, where he sits at the back of the class with a paraprofessional who simply keeps him from disrupting the class. His reading comprehension level is at a kindergarten level, and this is akin to putting your kindergarten child at the back of a 7th grade classroom for most of the day. His developmental pediatrician likened this to child abuse recently. The county claims this is in the name of inclusion, but it isn't inclusion to sit my child at the back of the classroom with inappropriate materials and having little to no interaction with other children. Sorry.
To have somebody read the rest of your testimony for you, you can do that. Okay, if you want to finish your testimony later, just raise your hand.
Okay. All right. Aaron Welch, please. Thank you.
My name is Erin Welch, and I'm in the process of moving from Ellicott City to another county because I have to move to a county where my input as a parent in my child's IEP will be counted, will matter. In Howard County, this simply isn't the case. My 10-year-old son, Braden, was diagnosed with autism as a very young child. Last year, 3rd grade, the school personnel found that they could not contain and consistently provide full inclusion for Braden in the general education classroom. They ended up placing him in a room with a paraeducator for 5 out of the 7 periods every day. He was completely isolated. I worked with the school and through legal representation to try to remedy the situation. I wanted this to work in our home school. I observed my son in school and arranged to have my consultant observe as well. After several months, the principal sent me a letter telling me I would not be allowed to even observe my son anymore. It was too disruptive to the school where my son was isolated with a paraeducator all day. We ended up with 7 3-hour-long meetings to discuss and work out Braden's individual education plan. Finally, at the end of the school year, on June 2nd, the school-based members of Braden's IEP team came to an agreement that the school could no longer provide the education, the free and appropriate public education, FAPE, that he required. We offered to have Braden seen at several non-public schools in the area that have all the components of his IEP. Howard County Schools refused to consider any of those schools except their preferred schools. Although we knew the schools Howard County approved did not have all the elements of Braden's IEP available, still the school insisted we try all their options before requesting one of the schools on our list. So we visited schools. Central office team offered to place Braden at one school as an appropriate placement if he were accepted. The school did not start the same week as HCPS, so Braden had to go back to Waverly for the first week before even visiting schools. So I dropped him off at Waverly, but it took the school staff 35 minutes to get him in the building. Braden was crying and screaming and physically fighting the staff at his home school. He did not want to go back to that school. The school they offered is a lovely school and lots of resources, but the staff did not have the training or the critical components necessary to teach my son. They told me this, and politely but bluntly, when I met with the school psychologist at the end of the 3-day trial period. But Howard County, represented by their non-public placement supervisor, Janet Zimmerman, called the school and somehow changed their mind. I got a call 1 day later, 1 day after the school psychologist told me that he was not appropriate for their school. They told me that I was not even allowed to speak with the school about the decision. My son's placement was decided by Janet Zimmerman without any regard for what the school had said. I had followed the school process. I had done everything that Howard County had asked of me and my child. I worked openly and cooperatively with the school. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for them. So I was left either placing my child in a school that was not appropriate, where they can't even keep my child in a classroom, or go to due process. So I am in the process of uprooting my son, our home, taking a substantial financial loss, and moving to another county. We will be living in a one-bedroom apartment in another county where my son was placed in an appropriate non-public school without incident, and where he is finally learning. I wish I could have stayed in our home, our neighborhood, in our community, where we have come to know and love, but my child's welfare was and continues to be more important. I hope no other parent has to go and make this kind of decision forced on me by Howard County. Please do the right thing. Stop the abuse of our most vulnerable children and our families. Clearly, we need a change in leadership.
Okay, Barb Krupiars is next, and after her will be Denise Juliana and Jason Bednars. And I'm going to gently remind everyone again to please stick to the 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
I'm the mom who took the Board of Ed to court to get information from the $300,000 special education audit. Let me tell you how that went. First of all, my name is Barb Krupiars, and I'm the chair of the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee that advises the school system on the needs of children with disabilities. The superintendent spoke publicly about the preliminary report from this audit, and the former director of special ed wrote about it, saying that she used it to draft their own report. So a mom of a special needs student asked for this report in a Public Information Act request. Their official response was no such preliminary report exists. Our committee members were already concerned because the parent survey had leading questions that we thought were written to get a certain result, which were not in the best interest of students in this county. Now we wondered what they were hiding in this preliminary report. I naively thought I could go to court and get it. Instead, I learned a costly lesson about fighting a school system with an unlimited legal budget. Within the first hour in court, the school's attorney asked for sanctions against me for minor technicalities at best. Last week, Delegate Miller asked Dr. Foose if she was comfortable imposing sanctions against a parent. She stated that the judge ordered the sanctions. However, an attorney has to ask for sanctions at the direction of his client. A complaint with the Open Meetings Compliance Board showed that the Board of Ed never met with to direct their attorney to file sanctions against me. That left the superintendent to direct him. HCPSS leadership put me on trial and tried to get me to drop the case by going after me for money, sending a message to anyone else requesting public documents. I tried to settle the case 4 times to save everyone's money, but the school system continued to spend your money on their lawyer. Even worse, they tried to use me for their personal witch hunt. They refused my offers to settle, specifically requiring that I submit to a deposition where 80% of the questions their attorney asked me were of a personal nature about people unrelated to my case. Some of those questions were, do you communicate with any of the individuals who are active on the Glenwood Middle School Mold Facebook page, and what involvement do you have with them? How many times have you spoken with Mr. Lemley in person? Have any of Ms. Valancourt's friends or family contributed to your GoFundMe account? I want to preserve all of your emails with Ms. Valancourt, and I'll get that subpoena out today or tomorrow. Are you familiar with a movement referred to as Cut Foose Loose? Have you ever used it? It was 2.5 hours of questions, and the vast majority of which were devoted to getting information about people unrelated to my case that was alleging violations of the Maryland Public Information Act. It was harassing and intimidating. The questions were about individuals, including public officials and other parents. And it was a horrific experience that no school system should put a parent through. During the dismissal process, the school's lawyer offered my lawyer to waive the sanctions if I would provide emails and texts between the individuals they targeted in the deposition. I chose to pay almost $10,000 in sanctions rather than be a pawn in their attacks on others. I hope I didn't do this in vain. The superintendent and the Board of Ed work for us, and we should be working together. Parents shouldn't be attacked for trying to do what's best for our children. Clearly, it's time for new leadership.
I'm going to remind again of the list. Denise Giuliano speaking now, Jason Bednarz, Mavis Ellis, and then Leslie Kornreich will be after that.
Good evening. My name is Denise Giuliano, and I've lived in Columbia for over 6 years. I'm here tonight as a concerned parent of 3 children in the school system. I not only have concerns with many of the school system's policies, I will speak here about one policy in particular, but with the overall policy development process because it currently involves very little input from parents. I volunteered to sit on the Technology and Social Media Policy Review Committee this fall as the Parent-Teacher Association Council's representative because I have strong concerns about the effects of personal technology device use on social skill development, particularly with middle school students. I was one of only a handful of individuals on the committee not employed by the school system. From the start, the committee was not provided with important data the HCPSS used to make technology policy decisions. For example, between 2013 and 2014, HCPSS conducted 4 pilot programs involving groups of students and staff, 3 in high school and 1 in middle school, to determine whether or not its proposed Bring Your Own Device policy, BYOD, improved classroom instruction. The BYOD program allows students to use personal devices during teacher-directed instruction. The school system touted the 2013 pilots as a success and subsequently extended BYOD to all high schools and then began a pilot program in 1 middle school. Again, based on its perceived success of the pilot, the school system extended BYOD to include all middle schools in the county this fall. When I asked last week, as a committee member, to see the data on the middle school pilot, I was told that it was not available because it had not yet been released to the Board of Education. I was flabbergasted. In other words, the school system made a decision prior to January of this year based on data that has still not yet been fully analyzed or released. This complete lack of regard for seeking parents' views is insulting. In most cases, parents provide their child's device and pay for the data plan associated with it. They should have ample input in decisions regarding those devices. It is equally frustrating to me as a voter that our elected school board members do not seem to demand more accountability from the school system in the form of data to support its proposed policies before they become permanent policies. On the committee, I worked with another member to develop and distribute a survey to ask parents' views on current technology policies. Over a 3-week period, we received over 1,000 responses and 345 comments, making it quite clear that this issue still resonates with parents. I am wondering why it took a couple of concerned parents to put together and finance a survey that should have been put out by the school system years ago. Based on the data, the majority of parents have real concerns about personal device use in our schools, particularly in the middle schools, both at lunchtime for personal use and concerns with middle school inclusion in the BYOD program. Parents overwhelmingly do not support HCPSS's plan to eventually include grades 3 to 5 in the BYOD program. Finally, only a third of parents agree that the school system is doing an effective job including parents in the policymaking process. Along with all the other issues you will be hearing about tonight, the BYOD policy is yet another example of a pattern of unilateral decision-making by the school system. It must stop. I just wanted to point out that the survey and the summary are available at the PTA Council of Howard County's website, www.ptachc.org. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Jason
Bednarz, yes. Hi, my name is Jason Bednarz. You heard a little bit about our son Zachary a little while ago. I'd like to follow up on that. We've lived in the area for about 10 years and moved to the area when hearing in the Columbia Flyer what a mecca Howard County was for children with autism, which our son Zachary has. While there are some good programs in place in the area up to 2nd grade, I'm here to say that the current system mostly fails our students with autism from that point on. The overemphasis on inclusion and the lack of training in those who work most closely with our children are the biggest problems, so much so that we had to pull our son out of school for 2 separate years and homeschool him at our own expense. While it may be an ideal toward which to strive, inclusion is simply not an appropriate solution for many children with autism. On several visits to various elementary schools, Zach's mother and I observed him being instructed by a parapro in one corner of the class, with the rest of the class being taught different material. This is certainly not inclusion in any meaningful way, and it always appeared to have the effect of a lower level of attention by all the students. The rest of the class would be distracted by Zach's noise and behaviors, while Zach would be overwhelmed by the commotion of a full classroom. Now in middle school, we continue to observe Zach essentially being babysat by an untrained aide in an inappropriate setting, given menial tasks to perform so as not to be disruptive to the rest of the class. It's hard for us, as well as most families we know in the same situation, not to feel like we're just being swept under the rug at minimal expense. All of the time and effort that goes into the various IEP meetings are often rendered moot by the lack of training by the parapros, as well as the fact that Howard County only employs 1 or 2 board-certified behavioral analysts for the entire system. In contrast, Massachusetts and California typically have 1 in each school where children are affected. As it is by far the most scientifically studied and proven methodology regarding autism, it is very disappointing that ABA is not more valued by this school system. Lastly, I often think of a saying that our daughter, a GT student, came home with in one of her first years here. She told us the kids were often made to chant, "You get what you get and you don't get upset." More and more, I think this chant applies to us parents as well, especially those of us with special needs students. It seems now that the only people who get results for their children are those willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars hiring lawyers and advocates to apply pressure, which the school system fights vehemently against and mostly defeats. The needs of these most vulnerable children seem to be very far down the list, especially with millions of dollars being taken out of the special education budget each year for the last 4 years, despite increasing needs. Add to this the fact that the school system also spending tens of thousands of dollars fighting simple freedom of information requests, it then becomes clear who is taking care of whom. The fact of the matter is that autism and other neurological disorders are not going away but worsening. This county must ultimately choose between penny wisdom and pound foolishness. Cutting costs now to pay for health care premiums and lawyers' fees will add a much greater burden to our community later if our special needs children are not given the help that they so desperately need. I urge everyone to seek new leadership and a better future for Howard County so it can live up to the PR that it boasts.
And we want to thank you for testifying, and I just want to say to Zach's mom, thank you for having the courage to come talk about your child in such a public setting. I know that everyone in the room would give you a hug if we could. Mavis Ellis.
Good evening. My name is Mavis Ellis, and I've lived in Howard County about 12 years. I want to speak on the issue of school suspensions and the issue of sharing school suspension data. At the last school board meeting, suspension data was requested by PTAC, the County PTA Council. Later, school board members also indicated that they had received a report on suspensions from the school system. It was requested that a discussion of that report be put on a future Board of Education agenda. Let me tell you why that is so important. My current job is as a pupil personnel worker in Montgomery County. I case manage students who have received suspensions. There are PPWs in every county in Maryland who perform a similar role. I am also a former president of the International Association for Truancy and Dropout Prevention. I can tell you that even one suspension increases the likelihood of a student dropping out. Nationally, the data that No Child Left Behind required be gathered in schools shows us that special ed students receiving free and reduced lunch, and minority students are disproportionately recipients of suspensions. Does that happen in Howard County? What can we do? We can utilize restorative justice programs like positive behavioral interventions and supports, mentoring and mediation strategies that help to reduce suspension rates. Unfortunately, few staff have received the professional development they need to work with our most challenging students. We need to know, what does HCPSS have in place for its students? What are the various categories of students being disproportionately disciplined? Are groups of students receiving disparate treatment for the same offenses? This is the type of data that the U.S. Office of Education's Department of Civil Rights has asked to be collected from all school districts. It should be available to us. As taxpayers and concerned citizens, we have a right to know. It's an issue of transparency.
Next, we have Leslie Kornreich, and after her is Jonathan Lemish and Ann Faust.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Kornreich. I am a parent of 2 children in the Howard County Public School System. I have a son with autism at Howard High School and a daughter at Elkridge Landing Middle School. Dictionary.com defines world class as ranking among the world's best or outstanding. It defines civility as courtesy or politeness. In spite of the tireless efforts of our dedicated, overworked teachers and staff, we are going backwards in terms of overcrowding, special education, transparency, accountability, and public input. Where we have dropped the most is civility, basic respect shown by the upper management and leadership of the school system towards staff, parents, the community, other elected officials, and even our students. It does not tackle the problem of a world-class school system, does not tackle the problem of overcrowded schools by increasing the capacities at those schools without adding any physical space, so that those schools no longer appear overcrowded, but only on paper. I'll give you 2 quick examples. In reassigning middle school capacities, HCPSS assigned a new capacity to Elkridge Landing Middle School of 779 from a previous capacity of 662 when the school was built. It has had no additions or renovations. Enrollment remains around 735, which strains the school's actual capacity, but it no longer looks overcrowded on paper anymore. The same was done to Duckett's Lane Elementary 1 year after it opened, with a capacity of 600 students. As soon as HCPSS realized it was already overcrowded, their solution was to raise the capacity to 669. The utilization percentages you see, which I'll turn in a minute, are based on increased capacities, making them look well under 100%, when in fact many of them are filled to the rafters. A world-class school system does not cry poverty while it increases class size, removes paraeducators from kindergarten with the stroke of one pen, and asks for an increase in legal fees for its bill-by-the-hour lawyers with another. A world-class school system does not transfer $1.1 million out of the special education budget at the end of the fiscal year while paying its bill-by-the-hour lawyers to bully parents fighting for their children's special education rights and fighting in court to keep said school system from releasing documents that belong to the tax-paying public. A world-class school system does not suspend the Citizens Operating Budget Review Committee, the only opportunity for Howard County citizens to have input into the school system budget that takes up well over half the county's operating money. For a lesson on how to provide a way to follow the money, including spending and transfers, HCPSS may want to consult the Montgomery County Public School System website. These problems exist because there is no oversight over the way the Board of Education and superintendents spend the school system's money. We, the people, cannot see how the money is actually spent during the budget cycle, and our elected officials in the County Council only have the power to cast an up or down vote on the HCPSS budget. I'm wrapping up. They do not have the power to oversee how the money they authorize is actually spent. Just as you have drafted bills to change the way our Board of Education is elected and place restrictions on HCPSS for how it handles MPIA requests, perhaps it is time to consider, if that is what it takes, legislation to allow our county government to have more spending oversight over the school system. We have a long way to go to be able to call ourselves world class, and perhaps the place to start is with a change in leadership. Thank you.
Okay, next is Jonathan Lemich. After him will be Ann Faust and Tina Horn, please.
Hi there. I'll be pretty quick. I don't have a horror story, but I wanted to give you my story and my opinions. You getting this? Pretty tall. I moved to Columbia in 2005 and then bought a foreclosure in Oakland Mills in 2009 when things were most desperate. We rehabbed it, bringing something back to the community. We did that because we heard that the school quality and public investment in schools was a top priority in this county. We're proud of it. We're proud that we moved here, and we tell people that's why we moved here, and that's why we paid so much even for a foreclosure. We heard that the worst Howard County schools were better than the best schools in the nearby counties. But I've heard that there hasn't been a representative from my neighborhood, Oakland Mills, on the school board since I moved to Howard County. And I'm wondering why that's not there. It concerns me. So I want to tell you two things. I've heard a lot of things tonight that kind of disturb me and worry me. Some things that kind of almost made me cry, I have to admit. First, I want to know that the lower socioeconomic status schools in Howard County are equally represented, and that these problems that I'm hearing about tonight will be addressed and fixed. That's my first point. I want to hear that. Second, my second point is, if I can be assured of that, you can double the amount of money you take from my taxes for schools here.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Thank you. We are now on to Ann Farst, and this will be about 16 or 17 people that have testified, and I just want you to know the delegates are willing to stay as long as it takes to hear everyone, and we have about another 24 on the list. If you are not on a list, if you'd like to sign up, make sure that you are on the list so that you can be heard before anyone else is heard a second time. Ms. First.
Good evening. My name is Ann Faust, and I am a Columbia resident for the last 15 years. I can't say I'm a product of Howard County school system. I'm a product of Finland, England, and a little bit of Holland school system, so that I think classify me as a world-class educated person. So, truthfully, when I have 4 children, and the oldest one is in high school, and I have got a middle schooler, and I have got one just started elementary school. When we first started the school system in Howard County, the elementary school we went, which was Talbot Springs, it was incredible. Our principal was wonderful. Her relationship with the teachers were wonderful. They were very welcoming to the parents. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours in that school just telling stories. We implemented festivals. All the other parents were encouraged to come and talk about their cultures. Over the years, I've been seeing little by little by little decreasing on the welcoming, especially in the last 3-4 years. The parents were just they weren't welcome in anywhere near to the schools. One of the biggest things I have been seeing with the Board of Education, which disturbs me more than anything else, a member of the Board of Education can openly call the Howard County parents me parents. This has been published on a newspaper. And also, it was really sad to see an administrator on last Tuesday pointing the teachers and calling the teachers them, and the teachers' union causing all these troubles. So in Howard County, it became them and us. And this can't be good for anybody. Teachers are scared to talk to the parents. I personally experienced this during the music and arts reductions. I had many teachers call me just to help with getting the music back into our system. They were so adamant in the beginning, and then the second calls I received from them, they're not necessarily my students' teachers either. They had to say to me, please don't use my name. I can't even talk to you in the school. I'm calling you from my personal cell phone. Please keep that one to yourself. This cannot be a healthy place. if an administrator cannot relate it to its teachers and their parents. We should be at least here for the same reason. I want to say one last thing. This is from my now 11, then 8 years old daughter about the testing in Howard County. She came first time when they implemented the park testing on her, crying from school, saying that, "Mommy, my head hurts. I've been in front of the computer for the 4 hours. This cannot be good for a developing brain." And what she said was, I think it was bang on. If they want to know about us, why can't they ask our teachers? They see us when we are ill, when we are good, when we are learning. They know what we learn and how we learn.
Thank you. Tina Horn and Jade Conley-Dugan. While we're waiting for them to come up, I want to make, oh, there you are, but one quick correction. We will only have live streaming until about 9. So our community college staff is only scheduled to be here until 9 o'clock, but we can still stay and be heard. But just keep that in mind with your testimony. Try to stick to the limit. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tina Horn. I am the son of a middle school student at Wild Lake Middle School. He is a graduate of Bryant Woods Elementary School. And I'm laying on the floor in shock after hearing these stories. I had no idea, and that enrages me. Alex has sailed through. He is a good student. You know, I frightened him into behaving from the time he was an infant, so he never acts up. At least that's what I tell him. We've been very fortunate in our experiences of Howard County Public Schools, and it's not fair that I should be the only one in that situation. I am working on a little lobbying project because I think all schools should have gardens. And one of the things that I have to do is figure out how to establish relationships with each and every member of the school board in order to get something done at that level. That takes a long time. And it's not that I don't have any energy for activism. As some of you know me, you know that, no, I have plenty of energy for activism. But why make it difficult for me and other parents to bring our pet projects to each and every individual school board member when I could just go to the one who's in charge of my schools where I live in my neighborhood, and then I could just build that one relationship and not have to drive everybody else mad. Thank you.
Okay. We have Jade Connolly-Duggan, Paul Lemley, and then Bhavani Pathnak.
Hi, I'm Jade Connolly-Duggan. I'd invite us all to just take one long, slow breath because I know we're all here on behalf of the children and the next generation, and that matters to all of us deeply. And I want to say thank you to all of the people who are in positions of power who've come to listen, and I appreciate that. And to Mavis, whose last name I can't remember, apparently 3 years ago, the African American Roundtable Committee of Howard County asked for those statistics, and they got them in June of this year. And in those statistics, it shows that black children in Howard County are 7 times more likely to be suspended than white children. Now, there's a breakdown amongst all of these things, but it starts in kindergarten, these disparities, okay? And my concern is that the onus of that disparity not be on the African American community. The onus of that disparity is on the school board, staff, faculty, all of the above, to be doing serious implicit bias training and anti-racism work at the staff and school levels, and also that the children be allowed to have discussions about what is a historic moment. My children are not allowed to speak. They were not allowed to speak in school about Ferguson. Now, the DC schools had a one sheet that they put out, how to have a conversation about what happened in Ferguson. And then in Baltimore, and I want to be honest, you know, I spend a lot of time at the corner of Pennsylvania and North Avenue. We have great schools, right? There are schools that are doing much worse than we are. But Howard County should be the leader for the country. We can set an example. Columbia was built for that. And we are doing Rouse a serious disservice. So, thank you.
Next, Paul Lemley. And after Paul will be Bhavani Patnaik and Douglas Parker, please.
If I turn this, will that work? It just feels weird to have the back to y'all. And the back to y'all, that feels weird too. Sorry. There's a camera over there. I don't know who to talk to. I'm going to talk to everybody the best I can. All right. Well, I'd still have my back to somebody. Hi, everybody. My name's Paul Lemley, and I'm the president of the Howard County Education Association. We're the union representing food service workers and counselors and psychologists, nurses, health assistants, secretaries, and, of course, teachers. Howard County, as you know, is a model for how to develop a better local economy. People of means move here. Middle-class families move here. And good people impacted by poverty move here with hopes for the upward mobility that great education can provide. And our schools, of course, are the pride of this community. And if there is a quick fix, I don't know it. There is a long fix, though, I think. It's not sexy. It's sitting down together in living rooms, coffee shops, to learn what we have in common, to decide on what needs to change. Unions are imperfect organizations, and we are slow to change. But we're offering ourselves as a vehicle for the community. We listen to each other, we decide on an agenda, and then we fight for our agenda together. So if you contact us, and this is easy to do, the Howard County Education Association, and we have, like everybody, a presence on Facebook and Twitter and the internet. What we do is we'll start the conversation. We'll build new relationships and slowly build the schools that our kids deserve. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bhavani Pathak, and I am a scientist by training, and I work for the federal government for the U.S. Agency for International Development. My husband here, Alan Sutherland, and myself have 3 children, all of whom have or have been or are in Howard County school system. The story I want to share, and I think 3 minutes is too short, but I'll do my best to share, is about my oldest child, who's now 18. This is about special education or lack of concern about special education. Brendan was diagnosed with ADHD and executive functioning in grade 1. We had received a lot of complaints in kindergarten. And since then, he has gone on, his diagnosis went on to severe anxiety. We had him evaluated by private psychologists, psychiatrists, starting in elementary school, and he's received continuous counseling from 3rd grade. I just want to add one thing about the anxiety response. Many people have heard of fight or flight, but there's one more piece to it, freeze. That's what my child had. He froze. He would put his head down, he would not do his work, or if he'd see 15 questions on the math test, he'd go to question 2, he couldn't answer it, he'd stop, even though he knew every other one, and he'd just put his head down. That is the worst crime he committed. He put his head down. And the school system harassed him, put us through process of IEP. How many IEPs where we wouldn't get anything till we brought an advocate, till we brought a lawyer, till we brought somebody, the counselor from Kennedy Krieger, the counselor from Johns Hopkins, to get one little accommodation that is not uniformly applied. This went on. I did everything the county said through middle school to high school. He went to Howard High School, stayed there 2 years, the 2 most hellacious years of his life. They did not want him there. He wanted to be there because he had finally made a friend. He went through this response. I met with the teachers, so on, everybody, the administrators. He was put in room. When he shut down, they harassed him, asked him to move, and he wouldn't. They would bring security, police officers, move him physically, handcuff him once he was in the ER, yes. And I've gone to the administrators, and they kept telling me that it was the safety of the other kids. My child did not threaten a child. He ran out of school several times. He even put his hands around his neck because they had 3 strangers trying to harass him to say he apologizes when this other kid had done something and they got into an altercation. Yes, they sent him in a gurney to the emergency room without telling us.
I got there just as he was leaving in the gurney because the school principal at Howard High School, the assistant principal, and what was her name, that other woman, they had him cornered and were just cutting down on him until he started to strangle himself and bang his head against the wall.
At this county's suggestion, we moved him to Hebron Emotional Disability Program, and I did exactly what they wanted. Brennan got straight E's. He could not cope. His difficulties were more than what the school could give him counseling for. At that point, we had a whole host of private providers what to do with this child because he's very smart. We want him to be a functional member of society. And the fear is such a kid will end up in the prison system doing drugs and so on. And so the school insisted that he has to fail before they give him another setting. The next setting was Homewood, and he failed. He refused to go to school. And they said that wasn't adequate enough. At that point, Brennan was 1 month from turning 17. We, at the advice of this whole myriad counselors, all of which I can provide, decided to pull him, and we sent him to therapeutic school in Utah, where he's been since last April. Brendan finished high school a month ago on his own. There's a lot more self-study there. He receives intensive therapy. Last year, we decided to go back to the school to see if they could reimburse us $35,000 to $40,000, which is what they'd have paid Hannah Moore as he was failing at Homewood. We went to due process. We tried to settle. There was Ms. Zimmerman and the counsel by our lawyer, and the answer was no, meeting over in 5 minutes. So we actually went to the due process, and these are our binders, only a subset of the paperwork on my child, numerous evaluations, and that process was so demeaning, full of innuendo, the way they cut down the counsel, that I do want to finish because I've not spoken, and it's only going to take me 10 more seconds. Anyway, the long story, at the end of the day, after a day of this very, very demeaning, vicious prosecutorial attack, suggesting that we caused the disability with the sole purpose of defrauding the system, which I have on record, okay? We withdrew the case, and we did say that we would talk to the media, which we have not done, especially in light of what happened to Barb with this same system. And the attorney for the school system referred to us as...
we really need you to wrap it up. Just for the courtesy of everyone waiting, I think they have the gist of your story. We understand your passion, but we need to let someone else testify now.
But let me just say this. Saving money is what I've heard is the reason for why this kind of tactic is taken.
Okay,
yes, you can save money on the backs of our most vulnerable children.
Thank you so much. Douglas Parker. Douglas Parker.
Hi. My name is Douglas Parker. I have the misfortune of being a neighbor of a Howard County school facility. To me, what makes them a bad neighbor is the carte blanche power they are afforded by the county government. They are allowed to operate in a manner tantamount to mess or malfeasance. In my case, they were allowed to install trailers behind the houses of my cul-de-sac, thereby turning my cul-de-sac into an auxiliary parking lot for the school. The moderator here and some of the board members in attendance were party to all that. Since 2007, all county agencies have willfully neglected enforcing any law and order to this situation. For the last 8 years, we've been robbed of the comfort of our own homes. Over that time, we've been ostracized and harassed by school officials and patrons of the school. I had to watch 2 cancer patients of my neighborhood live out their last years, not only suffering their ailment, but suffering, giving up the peace of mind and of our own neighborhood. It should have never happened in the first place. It still goes on, and it's just wrong. And this is by the people who like to ride around with stickers talking about choosing civility.
Thank you very much. I have to correct the schedule again. Our community college staff have graciously agreed to stay longer so that everyone can be heard. Thank you. But we do need to stick to that time limit. And I know everybody's got a lot of passion, doing a good job, but try to stick to it, okay, just for your fellow man. Mark Blum, Sam Cohen, Sue Faustino. And also, while Mr. Blum is coming to the audience, we have Delegate Guy Gazzoni who's joined us. Sorry, Senator Guy Gazzoni. And Eric is here, Delegate Eric Ebersol.
Thank you for convening this. My name is Mark Blum. I served for 14 years as a senior administrator in the Howard County Public School System. And in addition, I spent 10 years serving as a senior administrator in another Maryland public school system. And I've served as a senior staff attorney for the National School Boards Association. So I have a lot of experience with public school systems. And when I was in Howard County for those 14 years, there was something about Howard County that made it the jewel of the county, that made it distinct from any other school system that I've worked for or seen, and that is the respect and the focus on the community and the parent. It wasn't just the Howard County public school system. We viewed it as the Howard County community school system or the Howard County parent school system. And parents were the focus, whether it was in board meetings, superintendent cabinet meetings, meetings with the principals, every week when issues came up, the focus was, what about the parents, what about the communities? And those of you who have been here for more than the last 4 or 5 years know that. And whether it's the OBRC that was started, whether it was creating a policy review process to let the community have input in the policies, and an infinite variety of initiatives, the focus was on the parents. And what I've seen in the last 3 years is that that's been absent. And that was, from my experience, the thing that made the Howard County Public School System so productive, so effective, and served children so well. Thank you.
Sam Cohen.
Thank you for sponsoring this town hall meeting and for listening to our concerns. My name is Sam Cohen, and along with my wife Fern, we've been county residents since 1997. I have 3 children. My oldest is at River Hill High School. My youngest is at Clarksville Elementary School. My middle child, Ian, is on the autism spectrum, and it's the issue of autistic children in Howard County that I'd like to speak about today. You've already heard some of the horror stories of what it's like for our children to be students here with the diagnosis of autism. So I'm not going to rehash some of the ways that the school system has failed us. However, I'm hoping that my testimony, along with the testimony of others, will further open up our eyes to the sad reality that families with autistic children in Howard County are being asked to deal with a system that does not accommodate them. As a result, people need to make a difficult decision of either 1, uprooting their family and moving to another county, 2, spending thousands of dollars on lawyers and advocates to fight for placements that within reason are granted in other counties, 3, trying to work within a system that pushes children off the diploma track or otherwise raises such substantial roadblocks that a free, appropriate public education is not otherwise available, or 4, take the path which we have taken and pay for our private school placement ourselves. Our child Ian goes to Harbor School in Baltimore, and we cover the cost. While it's a sacrifice for our family, we do it because we want what's best for him and his long-term interests. We have a lawyer, we have an advocate who advised us that it would be a waste of our family's resources to spend the professional fees that we would need to spend in order to get the remote possibility that we could overcome the obstacles put in our way and actually prevail in court. In short, we felt that the only way to win was to not play the game of fighting the school system. I want to give you some figures about the Harbor School. It's not a school exclusively for autistic children, but there are many autistic children there. These are the publicly funded students from other counties. PG County, 81 students. Baltimore County, 74 students. Anne Arundel County, 70 students. All other counties combined, 83 students, all paid for by the counties. The total private pay students from all these counties are 16. From Howard County, there is only one publicly paid student, and there are 2 privately paid students, of which we're one of the 2. Why is that? I believe it is a direct result of the strategy that the school system has employed in hiring an outside lawyer who is compensated more to try cases rather than engaging in-house lawyers who have a duty to the school system and the community. By making it extremely difficult for families to secure services, the services that their children truly need, many people are discouraged from even trying. I encourage you to look for yourself and ask the appropriate parties to have a report prepared that details the comprehensive strategy that the school system has taken. In short, we need a change in leadership. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We now have Sue Fastino, and after Ms. Fastino will be Beverly I'm going to mispronounce this, I apologize, McNewmar, and then Lisa Markovitz.
Hi, my name's Sue Faustino. Excuse me, I've never spoken before such a big group of people. I have 3 children. 2 are now in college, all went through the Howard County school system. One's a senior at Glenelg High School. All attended GMS, Glenwood Middle School, and had allergy symptoms the whole time they were there. They stopped once they left. We were fortunate that we did not have severe symptoms, but they did have to take allergy meds their entire time there. I understand that it's very hard to keep all mold out of schools, but my complaint is that the mold at Glenwood Middle was hidden from us. One of my children now attends University of Maryland College Park, and they had a problem at the dorm she lived in last year, brand new dorm, Prince Frederick. Things were not hidden. Tons of upholstered furniture was thrown out. My second son is at UMBC and worked there during the summer. His dorm also had mold problems. It was a bad summer for mold, and they immediately handled it. Maybe not to my standards, but they brought in ozone machines, and it was taken care of. GMS has hidden this issue, and the willful and premeditated secrecy is my complaint. I don't hold the principal responsible for hiding this, as it seems to stem from the very top of the food chain. I attended the meeting at Glenwood Middle School and was surprised that Dr. Fu still seemed incapable of admitting mold as a health problem. I have 0 confidence in the administration. I wrote 2 letters to the head of the board, and one short response from Dr. Siddiqui was useless. But the main reason I am speaking tonight is that I do not hear great concern for the elephant in the room. If the administration is not being responsible for the safety of our children at school, why aren't the teachers allowed to speak up? We have had wonderful teachers at Glenwood Middle and Glenelg High School. I know many of them to be good, concerned, and wonderful people. I keep hearing this heart-wrenching reason that the teachers can't speak up for fear of their jobs. I simply want to know if this is true, and if it is, what can be done by the county to protect them and allow them to speak. Mold is just one issue. Are there other issues that teachers are not telling us about because they have been silenced? Is there not any whistleblower protection, or is it just too hard to prove that discrimination happens when teachers speak up? I am a firm believer in transparency, especially when health and safety are at stake. I attended the meeting in Ellicott City last Tuesday and was present to hear the unfortunate testimony of principal after principal testifying for the superintendent's view. As much as teachers are silenced, are principals manipulated? It was a very coordinated effort and very disconcerting, made only more so when even a lawyer who gets money from the school system reiterated Dr. Foos's viewpoint. Lack of transparency, teachers' silence, principals being lapdogs to their boss, Board of Ed members too cozy with the superintendent. It just all smells, and that smell is not mold.
Beverly, I'm going to try. Okay, I don't have to butcher.
Hi, my name's Beverly McNamara, and I've been a resident of the western part of Howard County for over 36 years. My 3 kids have all already gone through the system. They attended Lisbon, Glenwood Middle, and Gleno High School. And my youngest is currently a sophomore in college. And you're probably wondering, why am I here? Well, my life is about kids. I currently, and for the last 10 years, have been working as a preschool teacher at Lisbon, pre-kindergarten. And as a teacher, what goes through my mind every time we make a decision about a child is what is best for the kids. And at this stage of the game, I'm really concerned that that's not how the board members or the superintendent are considering the best interests of the kids. I'm going to give you a very personal example of how the school system failed. The needs of kids. Back in the spring of 2012, my friend Chris lost her daughter Grace to suicide. And she had been bullied brutally for months. When we found out Grace died, everyone in our tight-knit community was hit very hard. My daughter was Grace's best friend and had known her since they were babies. Her world crashed. The school did little to help the grieving process for the surviving kids. It was considered taboo to speak of her death since it was suicide. And so these kids were in no way able to grieve. The long story short, we fought for blue ribbons, which some of you may be aware of. It was finally allowed after 2 years after Grace died. At their graduation, they were finally able to recognize Grace as their friend. The sad part is, not only were they not allowed to grieve her death or even remember their friend in any way, no memorials, no yearbook, nothing. My concern now, just being an educator myself and for kids, a few weeks ago, another kid, young girl from Gleno High School, committed suicide. And I am hoping that Gleno does a much better job remembering that young girl in her life and let her friends grieve.
Thank you, Ms. McNamara. Lisa, is this Lisa Markovitz? Okay. Followed by Nancy Barker, followed by what looks like the last name is Schreff or Schraff. The first name looks like Nanette or Nan. Okay, Ms. Markovitz.
Hello, my name is Lisa Markovitz. I'm a long-term Howard County resident and president of the People's Voice and Advocacy Group. Thank you for hosting this forum. You are hearing of many experiences with the Howard County public school system. You may wonder what some of these issues have to do with legislation. Some have direct relevance, but others show a permeated process and policies that are in dire need of change. The reason they are relevant to the delegation beyond concerned citizenship is that they lend credence to the need to, yes, single out the school system for stronger compliance with the Maryland Public Information Act proposed by Delegate Miller. At the public hearing last week, Delegate Miller commendably asked Superintendent Foose if sanctions being placed on a citizen for trying to get public documents related to special needs education disturbed her. I do not believe this question was fully answered. Superintendent Foose said the judge did that, his decision. As many of us know, the judge did that in response to being asked to do so by the board's hourly billed outside attorney. You can think shame on the judge, but don't dismiss the instigator acting on instruction from his client. Do the comments of Superintendent Foose indicate a willingness to refund the sanctions? I fear not, because they need to refill the wasted taxpayer funds in this case, like the hours attorney crew billed for deposing Ms. Croupiers with questions like these that were an invasion of privacy and just a hunt for detractors and didn't belong in this taxpayer-funded Public Information Act compliance litigation. Sorry if some of this is repetitive, but are you familiar with a movement referred to popularly or in the media as Cut Foose Loose? Have you ever used it? Who are some of the others that have? Have you posted on Facebook about the mold in Howard County Public Schools? What involvement do you have with the individuals who run that Facebook page? Tell me the nature of your relationship with Mr. Lemley. When did you first meet Mr. Lemley? 9 months after you met him, you filed your suit, right? How many times have you spoken to him by phone? Is this an accurate copy of the pages of your GoFundMe account? Who contributed $1,000? When did you first meet Ms. Valancourt? Is this a true and accurate copy of a genuine original email communication between you and Ms. Valancourt? That referred to an email from a Board of Ed member's computer, not obtained through her, even though the Board of Ed was technically the client here. I share these with permission from Ms. Croupiers. Howard County does need strengthened compliance regulations. We also need more accountability, which districting will also help provide. Thank you for your bills on these issues. Is Howard County school system stellar in many ways? Yes, but it is in spite of leadership problems. Lastly, if the board hasn't given a standing permission to their attorneys to seek sanctions, then I am going to ask the Board of Education to vote that no attorney representing them shall ask for sanctions on an individual without a specific vote authorizing it each time. And if they have given blanket approval, well then, yes, on a side note, it sure is time for a change in leadership.
Thank you, Ms. Markovitz. Nancy Barker. Nancy Barker.
I think I heard my name called. I'm Nancy Barker. I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. It means a lot to the people sitting in this audience that people are coming to listen to what we have to say. My name is Nancy Barker. I'm a retired teacher from Howard County Public School System. It was my joy to work for 37 years with the children at Dasher Green and Rockburn. They were the happiest of my years, if not the healthiest. My husband always had a saying, Nancy, you took these kids to teach, not to raise. Fortunately, when you came into my classroom, you were one of my kids, and even though I'm retired, they are still my kids. And so that's why I've come here tonight, even though I'm retired. I don't live in the county, but I taught in the county for all these years, and my concern is for the health of my kids, no matter what school they are in Howard County. Mold is in every building, business, hospital, school. It's a fact of life. But mold can be identified and it can be eradicated. My husband has been certified and trained by the state of Maryland for mold identification and eradication because he is an independent contractor for 7-Eleven Southland Corporation. So he knows what the stuff is and he knows how to get rid of it. He was year after year watching me get sicker and sicker every time I went back into school because of the air I was breathing. Mr. Klink was called at my request to my school in August of 2010 because the first day I was back, I got mad again. I couldn't even breathe in my classroom because the areas had been closed down during the summer. So I got the Petri dishes from Home Depot, and I followed the directions, exposed him to the air. About 45 minutes, closed him up, didn't touch him again, in my classroom and adjacent classrooms. In 3 days, I had enough mold in there to make penicillin for Pittsburgh. And when Mr. Clink came and I showed him this, he said, well, that doesn't count. That's not scientific. If I don't see mold, it's not there. Then he started to jab this thing into the carpet. He said that would test the mold in the carpet. And within 2 days, I found out there's no mold in my room. I had asked him, do you want your wife to breathe this air in her kindergarten classroom? He said, that has nothing to do with the situation. Come on, you can see it. It's there. We discussed this with Mr. Clink back and forth with my principal, and I do want to say this is not a witch hunt against my principal at Rockburn. Her hands were tied as much as mine were. She forwarded the information, she sat in on the meetings with us, and she did the best she could. So please know that. I had bronchitis again within a week of being in school. And I, on average, would have a really bad case of bronchitis and asthma to the point where I would see stars when I was coughing and almost cough myself unconscious every year. Until 2010, I said I had it. We got to do something. It took 6 months. 6 months for us to say, what are you going to do? And when we said we're going to the health department, bingo!
Could you wrap up, please?
Yep. Something got done. They said they were going to have contractors in to look at the roof and fix it. It only took 2 more years to get the roof on my school fixed. And when we fixed it, they replaced the whole roof, and then I could breathe easier, and my kids could breathe easier. I'm not in the school system anymore, but they're still my kids, and they're all our kids, and they deserve to breathe clean air, and so does the staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Barker. Moving on to Nanette. And before you begin to speak, there were some people in the audience that asked for an email address in case they couldn't stay, or they wanted to email testimony in instead of do it live in person. And that email address is frank.turner@house.state.md.us. And that is for anyone who might not be here, who might be watching in live stream, or would like to just simply email as opposed to speak in public. I'll repeat it again. Thank you. Frank, F-R-A-N-K, .Turner, T-U-R-N-E-R, at house, H-O-U-S-E, state, S-T-A-T-E, .md.us. If you don't get it right, or all you have to do is Google Frank Turner and look for his state house address, okay? All right. Go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
I'm Nanette Schweitzer. I'm the past Howard County President of the Learning Disability Association of Howard County and of Maryland. And I'm on the board of CHAD of Greater Baltimore and on the State Board of LDA. And I'm very concerned about the DMC report, the District Management Council report. I was invited to the evening where the District Management Council presented the findings, and I was really shocked because what they talked about doing for kids who have disabilities would be that if they were having a problem, let's say in reading, they would have their morning inclusion class in reading, and then they'd go to their other classes, and then they would come back, and at the end of the day, they would have another class in that subject. For a child that has a learning disability, and a lot of them have ADHD and anxiety along with that, that is pure torture. And I don't think it's very productive when, for the kids that have special IEPs, they could have intense services. They would learn to compensate. A child who has a learning disability, a specific learning disability, they have average to above average intelligence. So if they can learn the techniques to compensate, they can get out of special ed. It doesn't have to be a K through 12 time frame. So that really concerned me. It also concerned me because of the school to prison pipeline. A lot of these kids who have learning disabilities and ADHD, when they get very frustrated, they can act out. It's the end of the day, there could be trouble, get suspended, and then where are we? They're not really getting their education. So that was my concern. The other part of the concern with the DMC is that I did see one board member at the Women's Fest out in Glenwood, and I asked her about the report, and she said they couldn't release it because it was too bad about special ed. Now, I've asked other board members, one of which is right there, and she hadn't seen the report. I asked the director of psychological services about the DMC report, and she couldn't even see it. I think we need more transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernadette Betcha and Mary Jane Monk. And that would be followed by Dawn Ledbetter. I apologize if we can't read your handwriting.
Retired from the Howard County school system at the end of last school year. And I just wanted to respond to the woman who spoke a little earlier, and she asked whether or not teachers and other staff members were afraid to speak out. And the answer is yes.
And Mary Jane Monk? That was you. So Bernadette, you're together. How about Dawn? Do we have Dawn? I did read that email address, so you can feel free to share that.
Good evening. I'm Dawn Ledbetter, the owner of the Horrible Handwriting. So sorry. Just very quickly, I wanted to support the bill to establish 5 out of 7 of our Board of Ed members being elected through their districts. It seems to me that a lot of our problems with accountability, children having issues in their school, addressing the needs of special needs students, it's about accountability. It's about avoiding the diffusion of responsibility. We as parents, it's hard to know who to talk to. It's hard to know who to engage on the Board of Ed. It's hard to champion someone who's doing a great job. It's hard to replace someone who's letting us down. I think the bill is excellent, and I just wanted to voice my support.
And thank you for having such efficient testimony. You probably only used 1 minute. We have, it looks like Yan Adu. Yan Adu. And that would be followed by Jason Bednards, and then Joanne Heckman.
I'm Yao Edu, and I'm not sure why I'm here, except my wife and I chose to move to Howard County about 7 years ago, based on its reputation and the reputation of the schools. Paying, more as far as the house and taxes than we otherwise would have. And I've been somewhat disturbed at some of the things that I've heard, and probably even more disturbed at some of the things I've heard this evening. Our son went to school in Texas, Northern California, and Massachusetts. So we've seen, other school districts, and we do have a grandnephew and niece in the Howard County schools. But my perspective is that the school district and its excellence is based on the parents and the teachers, and that the administration and the school board is there to support them and to be held accountable and to have transparency. And for that reason, I do support the proposal, to put things into school districts. I mean, for the election of school board members to be done by district so that they will be accountable to the residents of that district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, please, is Jason Bednars, followed by Joanne, I believe, Herman, and then Vicky Cutronia. So we're looking for Mr. Bednars. He already spoke. Okay. Then we are moving on to Joanne Herman. Any takers? Here she comes. Okay, no, Joanne. We're going to Vicky Cutronia.
Good evening. My name is Vicky Catronio, and I am a Glenwood, really tall, Glenwood Middle School parent and Glenelg High School parent. In June of this year, a teacher, afraid to speak out publicly, reached out to two parents and asked for help, wanting to get the word out about a years-long mold issue that had been kept from parents on purpose by the school system. She told me that an environmental air company had been out to the school several times doing air quality testing because of health concerns. Staff had expressed health concerns, and that's why the company was brought in. Two teachers also had filed workmen's compensation lawsuits, and another teacher had transferred out after being taken out by an ambulance in June of 2014. The week before this teacher talked to us, a student had been taken out by ambulance for severe dizziness, and at this point the teacher had had enough and reached out to us for help. Lindsay Jensen, a former 8th grade teacher who wrote several emails to central office asking for parents to be notified. In a February 5th, 2014 email, she writes to former facilities chief Ken Rowe, "I am deeply concerned for not only my own health, but for the health and safety of all Glenwood staff and students. Based on my own experience and what I've learned from other teachers, it seems as though the county feels we are making up these health issues. Several teachers are having health symptoms only when inside the building." She told Mr. Rowe the right thing to do is to inform the parents who are wondering why their child is coming home with allergic symptoms. In an April 2014 email, she states, "This past year, there have been extreme air quality conditions that have caused me to have heart palpitations, trouble breathing, dizziness, etc. I have seen several doctors, including a cardiologist, allergist, and pulmonologist, who have run multiple tests on me and have determined that I am a healthy individual with the exception of when I am working inside of Glenwood Middle School. My pulmonologist has termed my condition as sick building syndrome and has advised me to stay out of the building." On May 12th, she wrote, May 12th, 2014, "I got really sick and dizzy today at school and was taken to the ER by ambulance. Other teachers came into my classroom and said they had to leave because the air was so bad. Between Friday and today, there have been a few students who have also reported being dizzy. How could Howard County not think this was important information for parents? How could they not think that mold was not a health issue? At a November of this year, 2015, PTAC meeting, Deputy Superintendent Linda Wise stated that they didn't tell parents because they felt that mold was a maintenance issue, not a health issue. Despite the fact that two teachers filed lawsuits, a teacher was taken out by ambulance, another student taken out by ambulance, and all of these emails. And at every meeting that they had with Bruce Gist, Ken Rowe, Frank Eastham, they asked for parents to be notified. How could Howard County reasonably believe that mold was a maintenance issue when they were sending an environmental air quality company because of health concerns? After we were notified of this mold issue in June, our PTSA president demanded answers from our principal. Our principal wrote to the director of school improvement, Frank Eastham, "I am very concerned that the mold issue at Glenwood may come out in the public. In November of 2014, you instructed me that I was not to share statements with staff or community regarding mold or indoor air quality issues unless approved by you." I could talk for an hour about this.
Just try 20 more seconds.
Okay. The parents of Glenwood Middle School have no agenda but a healthy school for our students and staff. How could the Board of Ed and the superintendent not advocate for the same? Today, again, we're told that Glenwood is healthy. We heard this in June. We heard it in August. We're hearing it again. 2 students have just transferred out. We have other students having significant health issues, and still they tell us it's okay. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. I would like to thank Warren Miller and Bess Altwerger and Cindy Valancourt for all of their support.
Thank you very much. And now we have Heather Kelso. Ms. Kelso has some small children, so we moved her up in the line.
And thank you for having patience with me with my little kids and bumping up in the line. Thank you, delegates, for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak. I hesitated, but I feel like I just want to reiterate the parents of special ed students. The stories are the same. I was blessed enough to have my daughter leave Howard County public school system, and I honestly can't say why my daughter was chosen for non-public placement through the county, whereas so many parents who struggled and experienced the same process that I did, they did not. It doesn't make sense. There isn't that much joy and happiness. And despite what they'll say about the due process claims and the lack of filing, what I will say is you need to consider a change in the burden of proof. This can happen again and again and again and statewide. Any county in this state can decide to be aggressive, such as Howard County. Howard County has a reputation as being manipulative. I've heard, as I researched the non-public placements on my own as we were going through the process, because you have to know what you're doing when you walk in the door. Many schools said, they don't like us, and we just don't know why. Well, you know, I think the message is that's not spoken is it's money. They have the idea of where they want to put students. They make this choice and how they want to spend their money. The problem is the IEP is to drive placement, not their money decisions. And while I understand their need to advocate their position, I do not understand the need to violate a basic tenet of federal law, which is parent involvement and parent choice in this IEP room. By passing a burden of proof change, what you're actually going to do is make the IEP room effective, strong, having parents, having students, teachers working together. I wouldn't worry about court claims and the volume increasing. What I would worry about is having students, teachers, and parents working together, because that's what it's about. Not having to get this manipulation to parents in a room. And I want to say I'm grateful to my teachers, truly, truly grateful for what they have tried to do for my child prior to leaving Howard County. I want that to be known. I've said it time and time again. The problem is not the teachers. The problem is they are not provided resources, and it's just not effective. So again, parents aren't always treated very nicely, and it is unnecessary. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Kelso. David Youngman. David Youngman. David Youngman. Was not paying attention.
Thank you guys for all being here. Delegate Miller, Delegate Turner, Delegate Atterbury, thanks for your bills. I'm here in support of both of them in principle. Over the past few years, the leadership of the school system has grown incredibly arrogant. They operate with the attitude of we're important people here doing important things that you common folk just wouldn't understand. Don't bug us with your trivial little problems. And we're brushed off. And public information requests aren't fulfilled because they don't want us to have information, because it just leads to questions, and they don't want to be questioned. They want to operate in secrecy. They're paranoid. They're, as I've seen in writing, in some cases, dishonest. Whenever I bring up the superintendent and sort of the culture there, I'm told change is hard. She's making changes. Feathers get ruffled. Change is hard. But this isn't about policies, or at least I'm not here about any particular policy. I'm here about the way these folks operate and their arrogance and contempt for parents. And they're aloof. And, you know, change is hard. And changing out this leadership is going to be hard. It's going to be very hard to change out the superintendent, whose contract is coming up, when half the board is part of her exclusive little clique. prepared for that. And the tough thing is, they're supposed to be her boss. They're supposed to be our voice.
8 inches, 8 inches.
Not vice versa. It's tough to win these elections. It's tough to get candidates to run. It's tough to get school-age parents to run. A countywide campaign is daunting. And I think there's some mechanical issues with the bill of how we're going to do this, but it's easy to hide in a group. It's easy for one board member to hide in a group of 7 or a group of 9 or a group of 10. It's hard to hide when you're personally accountable for your district. And it's easier to get people that don't have the time and name recognition to run against one of these well-known incumbents if they can run in their district, where they're part of the community as well. So I would just urge all of you to consider, at least in principle, both of these bills, the Public Information Act bill and the changes in how we elect the school board members, so we really can kind of get back our school system and have it be, we spend 60% of our tax dollars on this school system. And in the last few years, there's been some significant changes to the negative. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
Okay, next, Deb Young, please, followed by Chris Rigby.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight to listen to the concerns of so many different parents. I know that we all appreciate that. I want to indicate my support for this school districting bill. I think it's a really good idea. The gentleman, your husband, brother-in-law, who's in the Oakland Mills district, I think spoke very well about this, because his concern was that there's an area of Columbia in particular that's not being very well represented. My daughter just graduated from Wild Lake High School, and I would have to agree that the 4 inner Columbia schools, Wild Lake, Long Reach, Oakland Mills, and Hammond, all of which have over 30% free and reduced meal population at those schools, are not being well represented on the school district, on the school board. To my knowledge, I think there is only one member of the school board who is from that particular area, and everybody else is from outside of Columbia. And I don't think that we are getting our voices heard. I have more than once written the school board, and I have never, ever gotten a single response from a school board member. It is like writing into a black hole. I'm sure that there are many people here who have had a very similar experience. The only way I think that we can, or I do think that the delegates' idea of having individuals represent individual areas to enforce accountability is a really good one and would be really helpful for making sure that our voices are heard no matter what area we are from, and that we have an opportunity to really have the kind of conversation that we need to have with a school board member that we're not having right now. And I appreciate your efforts on behalf of those of us who have been very active in the public education arena. Thank you very much.
Okay, after Ms. Rigby will be Ginny Gick, please.
Sorry. While they're adjusting the microphone, I want to recognize Amy Stratton, who is here for Congressman Elijah Cummings.
Thank you. Thanks to all the delegates and representatives here, thank you for moving this microphone up and down about 1 million times. Thank you for giving everyone the minutes, and thanks for moderating, because that's a really hard job. I am a born, raised, returned Colombian, so I guess you'd say I've been here since 1984. And I love it here, and I almost didn't even come tonight because my mom came last week and stayed till midnight and sent me texts while I was up with my sick daughter, and I thought I wouldn't even have the chance to speak tonight, so I'm actually pretty grateful for that too. I came to talk in support of the districting and of increased transparency, but hearing story after story from parents tonight is really disheartening. My sister had an IEP in the 90s, and it really doesn't sound like anything's changed. It's pretty scary to hear all these stories from special education parents. And I just wanted to say also that what a great opportunity we have. All over we hear all the time, parents need to be more involved with schools. Parents need to be involved in education. I work with volunteers. Do you know how amazing it is to have so many people who are willing to volunteer and you don't even have to ask them? That's incredible. We should really appreciate that and really work towards that inclusiveness, because we have what great opportunities in this room of people who really care. And I think that's almost it. Just that I don't want to go over. But I just truly can't imagine the harm that exists in increased transparency, increased openness, inclusion for parents and students between the Board of Education, educators, and parents. It's a great opportunity that we have, and I think that it's an exciting time. So thanks everyone for being here too.
I see one name on this list that we did not announce, and that is Grace Feelhauer, and she is here from the County Executive's Office. And now we have Ginny Gick and Joanna Kai. Those are the last two members that we have signed up to testify. So if you're sitting there thinking, gee, I'd really like to say something, now would be the time. We're at 9:05, so we hope to send the staff home reasonably early. Ginny?
Yeah, this is going to be the shortest. You have to make it on that one. I'm actually not a student. I'm a parent. Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'd like to talk for just a minute about priorities. I understand that in any budget discussion, sometimes tough and unpopular decisions have to be made and choices have to be made. Unfortunately, in this past budget cycle, it was the paraeducators and media secretaries who took a large hit in Howard County. I believe all of the media secretaries were taken out of the high schools, and now the media centers are closed at points during the day, as well as being closed before and after school when kids need it most. You know, tough choices have to be made, and you can swallow that sometimes whenever you feel like everybody is pitching in and doing their part. But what I have a problem with is when the students are paying the price for losing those paraeducators and the media secretaries, yet somehow we can still find money for board members to go on trips to China. And board members can be sent to Leadership Howard County. And board members and senior staff are sent to conferences. And the one that really got me recently was the boardroom being remodeled. This year, I believe we hired a photographer, pretty highly paid professional photographer for the PR department. And we wrote a contract with the communications company for branding. Really? We need branding? So maybe instead of doing what we're doing to build up our PR and our image, maybe instead of spinning it, maybe we just do the right thing so it speaks for itself.
Joanna Kai. Here she comes, and that will be followed by Larry Walker. And if you want to testify and you want to line up over there by the water table, you could do that as well.
I'm Joanna Kai. I came to U.S. In 1984, 31 years ago, after I finished my nursing education from Hong Kong, to explore a country with well-known democracy, liberty, justice, freedom of speech, and human rights. Because at that time, I tried to avoid, maybe living in China, communist-controlled government in the near future, 1997, okay, when China take over Hong Kong. Yeah, so, but my working experience in Howard County Public School System totally changed my how I view United States, and basically it's eye-opening. Workplace bullying, harassment, discrimination, fabrication of facts, intimidation, and retaliation from the leadership, from superintendent down to the immediate supervisor. Especially at that time, I worked as a custom nurse from Oakville High School and one other school, from 2006 to 2011. At that time, the leadership, city council was sick, so in the Wise and the ex-general counsel, Mark Blum, although he might be good with all the IEP parents, but he is really bad for all the staff. All the staff, the nursing staff cannot talk to one another because we have no freedom of speech. We want, because there's some policy is bad, bad practice, very bad practice. They don't allow the nurse to talk to one another. When we challenge the policy, that means they harass us, threaten us, and at the same time, when we go to the equity assurance, and also we go to the MAPROM, to report how the discrimination, harassment against the nurses. One more minute, okay. So they use that channel, to basically within 1 year, 7 nurses, 2 being terminated and 3 being forced resignation, and they went to the Howard County Public School System, and then 3 being medical FMLA, and then 2 claim being the medical disability. So what they do, when the nurse report the child abuse, so Mark Blum and the supervisor at that time saying, and the administrator, give her the reprimands, and then terminate her, almost terminate her if she's not resigning. So they really violate the reporting of abuse and neglect, and also the immunity by reporting the abuse. And also,
Ms. Kai, could you wrap it up, please?
Okay. So they also violate all the nurses' conversation, perjury. They subordination of perjury, advise the witnesses, to put false statement, and allow another supervisor to go to the law enforcement to put the false statement and violate the Title VII of Civil Rights Act.
Thank you.
So, okay, so basically what is true and what is the penalty perjury, they don't care. They just want to win the case, they allow themselves to perjure themselves. So I feel bad for all the staff right now. I think all the staff cannot talk because all the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kai. Mr. Walker.
Larry Walker. First of all, I stand in favor of Delegate Atterbury's bill and Delegate Miller's bill. I struggle to stand here before you because this is difficult hearing from our community. I moved back here over 30 years ago to raise my family. Fortunately, my sons have graduated and are adults. but it's difficult to hear from my community. In all the years that I've been here, I've never had this kind of sense of across the board frustration, and leadership listens and then responds. Now, while we can't meet everyone's individual needs, it's pretty difficult to hear so many, such a vast variety of challenges across the community in every corner of our county. And so I think I certainly applaud Delegate Miller and Delegate Turner for holding this opportunity for the citizens of Howard County to be heard today, and hopefully those members of the board and the administration that are here will also hear and then respond to the citizens who in fact pay for the school board, the school system to operate.
Walker. And if you want to come forward, we have 3 people that want to testify. Please state your name so the delegates know who you are. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Fern Cohen, and I live in River Hill. You heard from my husband, Sam Cohen, before, but I wanted to add a little bit more. Our son, Ian, is 13 and has autism, and there is no program in Howard County for children of his age with autism. So we pay $40,000 per year to send him to a private school in Baltimore County for children with special needs. When we hired a lawyer and an advocate, they told us not to waste our money, that we would never win against Howard County and Jeff Crew. Why should we have to fight for our sweet son with autism to receive a free and appropriate public education in our town? When I pick my son up every day, I see buses from Baltimore County, Montgomery County, Anne Arundel County, and Baltimore City. All of these counties pay for their special needs children to learn in this appropriate environment. Why is there no bus from Howard County? Because the leadership of Howard County Public School Systems do not think that my son is gifted and talented enough to be educated in their schools. We need a change in leadership. We need a superintendent and a board of education that cares about all of our children.
Hi, I'm Nancy Barker, and I spoke about the mold in my school. I didn't get to tell you the part about how in our hallway in the first grade team, the ceiling tiles were so soaked with water that they were falling onto the carpet for 4 months into school. We had the huge recycled trash cans on wheels under the ceiling to catch them before they hit the carpet. Sometimes we made it, sometimes we didn't. I was told this was because of air conditioning condensation. Air conditioning condensation caused those ceiling tiles to fall out. It got to such a point they had to stockpile them in the custodian's office so she could put them in to make it look all nice and clean again. And buy these huge velocity fans, which she would come in on the weekend if it was raining to set them up so that when we came back to school on Monday, at least the kids weren't walking through soggy carpet. Our roof as Rockburn has been fixed, thank goodness. And my breathing got a lot better. And I didn't realize it was all at all these other schools. The biggest reason I'm testifying is because this goes to show a pattern of not fixing the problem, of not admitting what the problem is. Those roofs need to be minimally maintenance twice a year. And that mold can be handled, and that leaking can stop. I had first graders that wouldn't even sit on the floor in that area because they were so afraid the ceiling tiles were going to fall on their head. And they asked permission to wait back in the classroom when we lined up for the buses. No 6-year-old should have to ask permission because they're afraid the ceiling's going to fall in on them. And that school has been fixed. And these other schools should be fixed too. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else after this young lady?
Young, thank you.
Who would like to testify? Because it's going to be your last chance in just a second. So keep that in mind. Please go ahead.
This time, Nanette Schweitzer, and I'm up here as a Howard County citizen, and I really want to thank Frank Turner, Warren Miller, the whole delegation for doing this. talk about now has to do with money in the budget. And someone mentioned about the boardroom. It was $390,000 to redo the boardroom. And it was because the board members couldn't see one another. I don't know about you, but things have been kind of tight the last few years. The economy's kind of tanked a little bit, and we need to be, being conservative with our resources. The Office of Accountability has gone from 11 when Dr. Cousin was there up to between 27 and 33 now, with really nice salaries. The Office of Public Information, I think it was 5 or 6, has now doubled, and there was a ad for a photographer that ranged from like $48,000 to $98,000. Then we have a new director of executive services. That was a new position, and that was a pretty expensive. That was in $193,000 to $170,000. So there have been all these positions at central office, and we've been giving up paras. We've been giving up the secretaries at the schools. And our teachers need resources. A lot of these general education teachers only have 3 credits of special education. And they're the ones that are now responsible for all the children. The special educators are there to help out, but the general education teacher is the one. And I just feel that we're asking an awful lot of the teachers. We're not giving them the resources that they need, and our children are going to suffer.
Thank you very much. And have you testified before?
I have not.
Okay, well, you get 3 minutes.
Oh, I won't need 3 minutes, but thank you. My name is Amber Treat, and I'm speaking as a private citizen. Some of you will know why I'm saying that. Not to mention that we pay a social media consultant in Howard County $156,000 a year. That was just an added. I wanted to mention that. I've posted it before, but that is what we pay a social media consultant here in Howard County. But I want you to take a look around the room. I want you to notice who's sitting with who and what kind of responses that they are giving. And that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much.
Hello again. My name is still Tina Horn. I am a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia, which is a member of People Acting Together in Howard, which is a Industrial Areas Foundation group congregation of a coalition of about 15 congregations. It is also conducting an educational listening tour. If you search for PATH and IAF together, you'll find the website with a listing of members. Reach out to any of the congregations, and they're holding house meetings among members and anyone who wishes to come and listen or come and talk and to share their stories. Yet another place where you can talk about what's going on with our education system if you need to.
Thank you very much. All right. Do we have one more? Did you want to come testify? And is this your first time up?
Yes. Okay. My name is Gail Goldstein, and I'm a parent of 3 boys. I have had one who's graduated from the county and 2 currently in the county. My husband and I moved here 25 years ago as newlyweds to bring up our family in a diverse environment that is founded on the beliefs of a community coming together and working together for the common good. I've been very happy with the education my 3 children have received, but as of the past few years, I can't believe the stories that I'm hearing from the teachers in this county. Teachers should not be afraid to speak up. It is a crime for our teachers to be afraid to speak out because of the repercussions that are going to happen to them personally. We have one of the best county library systems in this country. Yet, we are having to close down our schools' library and media centers because of a budget decision that our media assistants have to be removed from the high school and middle schools. This allocation of resources is questionable at best. This change reduces our students' ability to benefit from the media centers, and I am confident that this will be the beginning of a downward spiral of this school system. Parents earlier have spoken about a bullying problem at our schools. Yet I have heard countless stories about certain board members being bullied by other board members. And this bullying by other board members is simply because these board members the two board members want to speak out on behalf of the parents. It goes without saying that without a change at the top, we do not have any chance of improvement in this my way or the highway mentality. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, would you like to testify? Your name for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Sherry Truitt. I live in Ellicott City, Maryland. I did not come here to speak, but I could not stop myself because I feel very strongly that in terms of special education, there simply needs to be more options for our children. I heard someone speak about their 13-year-old son having autism and having to pay for a private education. And my son, 13, with autism, is struggling on the general curriculum. And the options should not just be either, you take him off the diploma track and just get him, a certificate. There needs to be more options. We want more than that for our son, but that just seems to be a cookie-cutter approach. So I just want to stress that we simply need more options for our kids with special needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for testifying. All right, I think that we are finished with the testimony. I'd like to give out the email address one more time. The email address for any comments for anyone that wanted to send to the delegation, you can send them to Delegate Turner. The email address is frank.turner@house.state.md.us. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Frank Turner and Warren Miller for closing comments.
Thanks to everyone who came and listened, and also those who testified. And it's only 9:30, which is a big improvement over last week. So thank you all.
Turn it on.
Well, again, thank you, all of you for coming out. And let me just be honest about this. I was told by someone tonight, and I've heard it once before, that Warren and I were simply having a witch hunt. And that's just not true, and you can see why it's not. I want to thank Howard Community College, and I especially want to thank you, the citizens of Howard County. And what are we going to do from here is the question. We need to go back and talk to other people within our community. The delegation is getting ready to go to Annapolis. And we won't be back until April, for the most part. So it's going to be up to you as a community to move forward, to make sure the board, the superintendent, are responsive to you. And I hope that that's the message that we can take away, that they have to be responsive to our community because it's our children. And that's the most important thing that we do in life, is to take care and protect our children. Thank you. And thank you, both Courtney and Christine. What a great night you gave us.
Thank you, everyone. Please drive safely home.